Lions needed a pass rusher, and they go get him before the trade deadline.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you on an Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th, and a Wednesday, November 6th. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. It is Locked On Lions, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Appreciate all of you that listen and watch every day, whether it's subscribing on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate you. Locked On Lions today, proudly brought to you by GameTime. Best app for tickets is GameTime. Download the GameTime app. Create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Za'Darius Smith is the newest addition to the Detroit Lions. Big trade today. We're going to dissect that, tell you all about Z Smith, and even dive a little bit deeper because Za'Darius Smith has spent the last 2 years with the Cleveland Browns and the radio play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Browns, the new voice of the Browns, Andrew Siciliano. Yes, our guy, Andrew Siciliano, the original Red Zone host, formerly also of the NFL Network, is now the Browns play-by-play man. He has seen Big Z up close the last few weeks. We'll talk Za'Darius Smith with Andrew Siciliano coming up in a little bit. Also, we got to give you a little call of the day today, which we will do. If you want to be our call of the day, go to speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page. That is speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page. Leave a voicemail, and we might play it on the air. Lions are taking on the Houston Texans coming up Sunday Night Football on NBC. The man that will be on the call for Sunday Night Football on the Peacock Network, NBC, Mike Tirico, will join us. It's tomorrow. It's a Syracuse and WAER slapfest. Siciliano today, the original, the best Red Zone host. And then tomorrow, Mikey T will join us to talk about Lions and Texans. All right, so the big news came out earlier this morning. Za'Darius Smith, now a Detroit Lion. Brad Holmes working the phones, really pushing Browns GM Andrew Berry to make this trade. The Browns are in a complete free fall at 2-7. And so Za'Darius Smith comes to Detroit, his third NFC North team he's been on. He was on the Packers. He was on the Vikings. Now he's on the Lions, as he is in the second year of a 2-year, $24 million deal. Lions will have to pay him just over $11 million next season. And he's got 5 sacks. He's top 25 in the NFL in pressures. And he is exactly what the Lions needed. In return, the Lions sent a 5th-round pick, a 6th-rounder next year, and they'll get a 7th-round pick this year, along with big number 99 coming over from the Browns. Za'Darius Smith is a really good player. He's a really good player. This is a great pickup. It's a really, really good pickup. He gets to the quarterback. He's got 5 sacks this year. Like I said, top 25 in the league in pressures. He's been a 3-time Pro Bowler, twice with the Packers, once with the Vikings. And here's what I love about Za'Darius Smith. Yes, he's 32, probably on the back end of his career, but when the Lions take on the Packers later in the year at Ford Field, what is that? That is December the 5th, when they host the Vikings in Week 17 and what could end up being a big game, and you never know. Za'Darius Smith is out for blood. I told you the last few days, he does not like the Packers. In the 3rd year of his contract with Green Bay after being a Pro Bowler 2 straight years, this was back in, I believe, 2021 or 2022, he was a little bit banged up with a back injury. Didn't like how the Packers were treating him. He thought they kind of were dissing him, so they just cut him. He ended up going to the Vikings, and he signed with Minnesota out of vengeance to the Packers. And he still to this day does not like the Packers. Then he wanted a new contract with the Vikings, and the Vikings let him go. And instead he signed with the Browns. So twice he's felt burned. He plays with that chip on his shoulder. Everybody says good locker room guy, very quiet, not going to be a malcontent or anything like that. You know that's important for Brad Holmes to bring good people in here. He's a dad, responsible dude, and ready to rock here on a playoff team with the Detroit Lions, and he'll get a chance to play the Packers and Vikings at the end of the year. Too bad he couldn't have played this past week, but this is a good football player. And so here is Brad Holmes, Lions general manager, making a move on trade deadline day. What does this mean? It's simple. The Lions are going for it. The Lions, I'm not going to say the Lions are the best team in the NFL, and I'll ask Andrew what he thinks. But I watched the Chiefs play last night and escape against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Thanks, Todd Bowles. Kansas City is 8-0, but they're iffy. The Lions have been more dominant. Until someone beats Kansas City, I'm not ready to say that the Lions are better than the Chiefs. All right. I've seen power rankings that have the Lions number 1, the Chiefs number 2, and flip-flopped. We'll have the lockdown power rankings tomorrow. But you could make an argument the Lions are better than Kansas City. But with this move of Za'Darius Smith, with all the problems the Lions have had getting to the quarterback the last few weeks since Aiden Hutchinson's season-ending knee injury, you knew Detroit had to do this. You can't trot out Al-Qadim Muhammad and James Houston and Chris Smith, and you have Onzarike playing edge. You got to get Pascal back. You got to have Pascal bookending with Za'Darius. You got to do it. That's the best team the Lions can field right now when it comes to their defensive line. Then you rotate Levi in at D tackle with DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil. And now you're partying. All right. Za'Darius Smith has been a all-pro player in this league. Like I said, 3-time Pro Bowler. Knows how to play. He's a power rusher, but he also has got some speed around the edge. He can play the run, something we know James Houston can't do, unfortunately. Look, the Lions have tried Isaac Ukwu off the practice squad. They've tried Isaiah Thomas. They've tried everything. And right now, they're not getting enough pressure. They're not getting home enough. And so this is a guy they had to go get. And I love the pickup. And according to reports, the Browns were holding out for a 4th-round pick. And it wasn't looking good. And then this morning, the deal got done. And the Lions, all they had to give up was a 5th-rounder this year, a 6th-rounder next year. And they actually get a 7th-rounder back this year that they could package up to get that 5th-rounder back, or even the 4th-rounder back that they gave up to draft this year, Giovanni Manu. So I like it. This is a guy that's been on good teams. He's been on playoff teams. The Browns were a playoff team last year. He was on good teams in Green Bay. He was on that really good team in Minnesota a few years ago. Knows how to win. Will blend right in. And Brad Holmes and his front office staff once again do this. You got to go for it. You can't just stand pat. And this was a guy that they were obviously targeting. This was the only move they made, by the way. The trade deadline is come and gone here at 4:00. So no Azeez Ojulari, no Calais Campbell, no Cam Jordan. They didn't add 2 guys. They added 1. We talked about yesterday Smith and Bo Plain being released. And now the roster spots will be taken up by Jamison Williams, who's back this week against Houston, and now Za'Darius Smith. So love the move. We're going to talk about it more with the great Andrew Siciliano coming up next, right here on the Locked On Lions. It is a Tuesday edition. Tomorrow, Mike Tirico will do the crossover. On Thursday, get more in on the Texans. Busy week here on Locked On Lions. Interesting, too. Not a lot of moves made by contenders in the NFC. Washington did trade 3 draft picks to get Marshawn Lattimore away from New Orleans. That was a big-time move by the Commanders. But Philly was kind of quiet. Packers traded away Preston Smith to the Steelers. So, Lions had to go out and do something, and they get big Za'Darius Smith. You got to love that. Andrew Siciliano, the voice of the Browns, will have more on a Big Z. We'll do that coming up next with Drew from Cleveland. It's Locked On Lions, a Tuesday edition. And we mentioned before, Locked On Lions brought to you by GameTime. Looking for tickets to a concert. Pistons playing good ball. You want to go see the Wings, whatever it is. Get your tickets on GameTime. I'm telling you this, GameTime Picks is the best. What is that? It's a new feature on GameTime that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They got everything, all right? All-in pricing, all right? Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. They got the seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you're sitting. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime picks. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? You know what time it is. It is game time. And the program today brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We got the Lions as 3.5-point favorites on FanDuel this Sunday night. Oh, Sunday night against the Houston Texans in Houston. Texans are unbeaten at home, and they're a home dog to the juggernaut Lions. Right now, new customers can bet $5 on FanDuel and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's check in with Andrew Siciliano, our good buddy, formerly, of course, of NFL Network and the Red Zone, but now, ladies and gentlemen, the radio play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Browns, and he's seen Za'Darius Smith up close the last few weeks. Joins us today on Locked On Lions. Drew, great to see you.
MD, good to see you. Can you tell I work for the Browns now? Did the shirt and everything in the background give it away? I had to change my normal podcast background. It's literally... it's all Browns.
I just remember when the Browns would win, we'd be in the car on the way home, and on the radio they would play that "Go Browns," like little like stupid spot. But look at you back, putting the headset back on.
Tim Couch bobblehead. You like one of those? Nice. Remember those stadium giveaway? Yeah.
You got any Bernie stuff back there? You matter.
Yeah, I think I got my Bernie. What were those starting lineups? I think that one's in storage. The missus made me put everything in storage. I got a John Manziel pop thing.
All right.
Yeah, remember him?
Yeah. Great era. Great era of Browns football.
Wait, hold on. I know I'm wasting your time. The best is the DirecTV Browns remote. Remember these?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Where were we?
So, Za'Darius Smith coming to the Lions. How's he been playing? What do you think of the move from Detroit?
He's been playing well, very well. Last year, it didn't start well, at least when it came to his sack numbers. They had gotten him from the Vikings in the offseason. You put him opposite Myles Garrett. Myles, obviously, DPOY last year, was eaten from the jump last year, and Za'Darius was not. He's had a bad back over the years. I think he was fighting through that. Second half of the season, he came on as the team collectively came on. This year, he has gotten out of the gate very well. He has those 5 sacks. I don't know what his pressure numbers look like, but I know they are
top 25.
They're pretty good. Look, he is constantly in pursuit. If you go back and look at the final play from scrimmage when they beat the Ravens 2 weeks ago, Lamar Jackson pump fake, like he's the one guy that chased him to the sideline was Za'Darius Smith, and we are constantly saying Lamar Jackson running away from Za'Darius Smith. The motor is there right now. And the fun is there. He's got a little dog in him, and he always has. I loved after he sacked Lamar Jackson 2 weeks ago, he did a little Ray Lewis dance.
Oh, all right. All
yeah.
right.
And I asked him last week in the locker room, was that out of respect
Right.
or was that out of mocking? And he said that Ray was his boy, but, quote, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So I think you'll like him.
What kind of guy is he in terms of locker room? Our buddy Daryl Ryder from the Fan there in Cleveland was saying he's quiet, yet he was very loud when he left Green Bay. He was ticked off. He was upset about Minnesota letting him go. So he's got a little chip on his shoulder playing these North teams later in the year when the Lions play the Vikings and Packers one more time each. But What else can you tell us?
He's got all that. Look, he's a guy that over the years is not afraid to say that I would like to get paid. That isn't a bad thing. He does have a year left on that contract. I think it's 11 or something.
Yeah.
Next year, so you can keep him if he finishes strong and the Lions finish strong. Wouldn't be surprised if he would like a sweetener to that contract. Who wouldn't when you're walking into the final year? I think there were some Browns fans that said, wait a minute, you get a 5 and a 6. Why don't you just let him walk like after the season and get a compensatory 3? It doesn't work that way because he has that extra year. So I know there are a lot of Browns fans that wanted a better return, that looked at what the Lions had and said, well, we want a 3. They don't have a 3. Send them elsewhere. But when you see, for example, Baron Browning. Now, Za'Darius Smith, older, much better resume than Baron Browning.
Sure. Yeah.
He goes for a 6. I think Browns fans wanted a little bit more. I don't think it's a bad return for a guy that is going to be 33 next season.
Andrew Siciliano with us, voice of the Browns. When you talk about Za'Darius Smith, is it power rush? Is it getting around the edge and twitchy? Like, how would you kind of characterize his game?
He's got a little bit of both. I would say that at 32 years old, he's got a little veteran savvy to him. He's not afraid to play the run either. He doesn't have Myles Garrett size, but he's not short. The guy's like 6'5". Might even be listed as 6'6", although I don't think he's exactly 6'6". Look, he's an all-around player, and you're getting a good player. Is he going to give you Aiden Hutchinson's production? Look,
Right.
he was leading the league in sacks, and he was on a DPOY track. No, but flip it around for a 5 and a 6. I think this is a great value for the Lions.
Browns, I know it's been rough. I know for you, there's been some emotion with your calls with Jim Donovan passing away, and they've just not won a lot of games and everything else. Was Za'Darius Smith the guy that was keeping his head up? I mean, a veteran player that has worn the C before, but that's kind of how you measure players, is when they're going through rough periods of time. How's the environment been? And do you think Za'Darius is just happy to get out of there?
I don't know if he's happy to get out of there, but I will say that he's been great. And listen, the locker room, admittedly, Matt, I've been commuting from LA. I have been there. I was there for these 3 weeks over the 3-game homestand, the Bengals, the Ravens, and then the Chargers. This past week felt really good. It felt like it was a 6-2 team and not a 2-6 team. And I think overall, not that they thought they could roll the ball out there and beat the Chargers, but that game, that outcome was surprising to me, and I think a lot of people, because the thought was get to 3-6, which is still not good. Right? We can't sugarcoat 3-6,
Right.
But if you get to 3-6, you are very much in the conversation in a mediocre at best, middle of the pack AFC. And then next week after the bye, you go to New Orleans to face a team that is in total disarray and just fired Dennis Allen. And then at that point, and again, you can't just start checking off wins when you have only 2. But at that point, let's say you beat the Saints in the Jameis revenge game. You're 4-6, and you get the Steelers at home on a short week on TNF. Okay. But they didn't get there. They didn't do the job. Clearly didn't do the job against the Saints. I'm sorry, against the Chargers. And here we are. The frustrating part about that, and there's a lot of frustration baked into what I just said, was that for about 98% of the defensive snaps, that defense was lights out. I mean, absolutely lights out. Myles Garrett had 3 sacks within 4 plays. I think they had 6 sacks overall. The tackles got involved. Dalvin Tomlinson had a sack and a half. Shelby Harris had a half a sack. 98% of the defensive plays, they were amazing. Those 2 massive busted coverages, however, dug you a hole that the offense simply wasn't good enough to dig out of.
So you're a guy that obviously looks around the league. You're doing a new podcast as well, which I want to get to in a second. But are the Detroit Lions, in your mind, the best team in the NFL? Chiefs needed overtime to beat the Bucs last night. They're kind of skating on thin ice in close games, even though they're undefeated. Do you think the Lions are better than Kansas City?
Yes, I do. And I said it on our Browns pregame show on Sunday. I said that I will be absolutely stunned if the Lions don't represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
All right.
Now, I know that's a powerful statement.
Love it.
But I really do believe that. I do think that they are that good. They've got a fire to them, which obviously you see up close. They've got a nasty to them. They don't mind running it up a little bit. I do think they're that good. They lose Brian Branch. They didn't blink. There are a lot of teams a lot of fan bases that are complaining, oh, my guy wasn't there. We had a player injured. That's fine. They got one of their best players kicked out of the game early. They didn't blink. They won. They won handily. They're fine. I do think they're that good. Yeah. I think they are clearly they're better than the Packers. They're better than the Vikings. Lurking there are the 49ers if they can get healthy. But this idea that Christian McCaffrey is going to come back and all of a sudden be a 25 touch a game machine that he was last year, that takes some time. Can they get there by January? I think that is the question for San Francisco.
Saw your old buddy Michael Thompson last night. I was at the Pistons game against the Lakers.
I saw him last week.
He was eating chips in the fourth quarter in the middle of the game, just down in a bag of chips during the Lakers-Pistons game, doing the radio. You got to love that.
He's the best. I saw him. I went to the Lakers Cavs. And how about the Cavs, by the way? Last week in Cleveland. Went up to say hi to him and his partner, John Ireland. For those who don't know, Matt's joking about it. We all worked together many years ago here at 710 in LA, and Michael and I did a show every day.
Yeah.
I love him. I love the man. He's an interesting cat though. And he has his routine. And if his routine is, for example, eat a bag of chips at 10 p.m., it doesn't matter if it's
the game is on at the same time.
I mean, if it's Kobe battling whomever, may he rest in peace, or Jordan battling he's eating his chips, period. Wow. Show every day, and he had to have his lunch. He ate a sandwich at 12 o'clock every day. We were on the air doing a local show here in Los Angeles at 12 o'clock every day. And I'd say, Michael, you're eating on the air. So I got to eat lunch. It's noon. Can you not eat on the air?
Right.
No, I got to eat.
During a break? Nothing?
Yeah, how about during a break? No, it's noon. I have to eat.
All
and
right.
it was maddening, but I love him. We figured it out and we moved on.
Love it. All right, brother. What else are you doing? I see this new pod you got. I know you're doing the Brown stuff and you're commuting. Where else can people find you?
Doing a pod with my friend Sam Batesh. It's called Thinking Out Loud. I have a YouTube channel, Siciliano Show, because somebody owns Andrew Siciliano that hasn't posted in like 10 years. But
wow.
if that's you, can I have my YouTube name, please? So it's at Siciliano Show, doing it there. Also Thinking Out Loud podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And we're doing that a couple of times a week. It depends on my schedule. Sometimes it's only 1 day a week. Sometimes it's 2 days a week. I know that's really not good for the consistency one needs to launch something, but that's what I'm doing. And some Big Ten for NBC Peacock. Got another game coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So excited for that.
All right, brother. Great to see you. Thanks for the update on Z Smith, and all the best.
Tell Jared I said hi.
The original Red Zone host, the best Red Zone host, Andrew Siciliano with us. Great to have Andrew on the program, and when we come back, we'll play our call of the day. But first, ladies and gentlemen, Locked On Lions sponsored by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude, along with the person, people that you're thinking about, all right? And maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, maybe there's another person that we don't get to thank enough. You know who that person is? That's ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, we know it's crazy today. That isn't easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. All right. If you've benefited from therapy like I have, or anybody that you know, maybe you should give it a chance and talk to somebody. All right. If you're thinking about starting up therapy, though, I want you to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, folks, as we like to do from time to time, we want the audience to participate. You can do that on our SpeakPipe voicemail system at speakpipe.com. That's SpeakPipe, PIPE.com/Dairy podcast page. Becky, one of our everydayers, is back, and she is our call of the day today, and she has a very interesting question. So, Becky Walston, you are up as our call of the day here on a Tuesday, Locked On Lions.
Hey, Matt, Becky Walston calling. My husband, Aaron, and I listen to you every day on our commute to Napoleon, Ohio as teachers. So at the beginning of the season, Vegas had, if I'm not mistaken, the Lions winning 10.5 games. And you seem to think we'd be right about at that point. So now that the season is half over, would you like to reconsider that prediction? Thanks for what you do. Bye.
All right, thanks, Becky and her husband. Napoleon Defiance Exit. Gotta love it. They're in Ohio off of Route 24. All right, so Becky's calling me out, and she has every right to. The Lions are 7-1 and playing great football. When I was doing my predictions at the start of the year, I had the Lions already at 3 losses at this point. I had them at 4-3. And had them finishing at 10-7. I thought the Lions were going to have a great season. I just didn't think with this schedule that they would win all these games, and they are. Do I want to revisit it? Of course I do. All right, I said 10-7. I got to stick with it. But no, if I could get a mulligan like Becky's asking, I had them losing this Sunday night to Houston. I'm not sure my prediction on that yet. I had them losing in Indianapolis. They're going to beat the Colts. The Colts are terrible. I had them losing later in the year against the Bears. I don't see anything from the Bears to make me think they're going to lose to them. The 49er game in San Francisco could still be difficult by the end of the year. But if you've watched the 49ers so far this year, they have not been great. Yeah, I mean, I said 10-7. I mean, this looks like a 13-14. This looks like a 13-14 win team the way they're playing right now. It just does. They are this good. And now adding Za'Darius Smith, and hopefully going to get some guys healthy. Who knows? Could Aiden Hutchinson be back if they make the Super Bowl? No, this team is primed. They look great. So yes, 10-7. Thank you, Becky. I was way wrong. All right, Mike Tirico from NBC Sports. He'll be on the play-by-play call alongside Chris Collinsworth and Melissa Stark Sunday night for the Lions and Texans. He'll join us tomorrow on a Wednesday Locked On Lions. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Back tomorrow on Locked On Lions.